The economic transformation program is catalytic in its approach. Like acupuncture, if you want to heal, you don't poke the entire body. You poke only certain pressure points that will catalyze the body. In the previous section, we talked about focus and competitiveness. We should focus on areas where we have natural strength and create conditions for our country to compete in the global market. In this session, I would like to put the spotlight on competitiveness. We have made headway on reform initiatives, which are important to improve the business environment and encourage competition within and outside Malaysia. Let me break this down. The National Economic Action Council and the 10th Malaysia Plan identified 51 policy measures. 14 of these were in natural homes, and they were Changkul ready and they were ready for implementation. However, 37 of the policies have been grouped into 6 clusters for execution. These 6 cross-cutting structural initiatives will allow Malaysia to tap into global opportunities and become a more resilient economy. I will talk about a few highlights for each of these 6 clusters, and so that you can visualize what we're doing under the strategic reform initiatives. Let me start with competition, standards, and liberalisation. Although the services sector is a significant contributor to the Malaysian economy, it is only accountable for 58% of our GDP in the year 2010. Like other successful economies, we must see this rise to 70 and 80% by the year 2020. A competitive economy promotes performance and innovation. So, returning back to the question about what are we doing with the reform initiatives on competition, the first thing we did was to introduce the competition law. For the first time in our history, we introduced a competition law in January 2012, which aims to remove anti-competitive behavior and the abuse of dominant positions. In fact, we have to deal with this to get rid of this. The Prime Minister announced during his budget speech 2012 that he would liberalize altogether 17 subsectors. That's a lot of subsectors that he announced for liberalization. To date, 9 of them have been fully liberalized. And the remaining 8 will be done in stages in the course of this year. At the same time, it is critical that companies in Malaysia adopt proper enforcement of standards, which are Malaysian standards and international standards. In fact, when we looked at the total number of standards in Malaysia, there are more than 6,000 standards in Malaysia. Because most of these standards are voluntary, they are not compulsory, only 6% of those standards are fully implemented. I talked the other day to a tilapia farmer, and he was complaining about the fact that there's nothing that distinguishes his fish that he raised in very clean and pristine waters compared to another farmer that raised the tilapia in very muddy waters. Because it cost him a lot of money to produce this fish, and compared to the other one that is dirty waters, unfortunately there's no distinguishing standards that exist. What it means is in the supermarket, in the fish market, the same fish are priced in the same way. And so it's very difficult for that person who had spent a lot of money producing that pristine and high quality fish to make money because the competition is unfair. And that's very important. Now, let's look at human capital development. And this is very close to the hearts of many people, many of us in Malaysia. To develop Malaysia to become a high-income nation, we need a highly skilled workforce. Under the MyPro Cert program, Malaysians will be upskilled to international certification standards, and this is aimed to produce something like 5,000 new certified professionals by the year 2014. In the public finance reform cluster initiatives, Through improved tax administration, we collected 25.3 billion ringgit last year in tax compared to 2010. In fact, last year, we achieved the highest government revenue in our history. There are 12 million Malaysians in the workforce. However, only 1.7 million Malaysians are registered taxpayers. In fact, out of the 1.7 million registered taxpayers, only 1 million pay tax. Now, we also looked at how we can improve greatly the speed and the quality of public service delivery. We examined a lot of business licenses that are required. That means if you want to set up a business, you will need to apply for those licenses. The total number of licenses that are required that we have in Malaysia, business licenses, is 761. And we examined this and we've decided to get rid of 52% of those licenses, and then that leaves us only with 375 licenses. So I do believe that reducing bureaucracy is also a very important way to reduce compliance costs for the government and save money. We also introduced a real-time performance monitoring system in 92 police stations in Selangor. Now, the government's role in business lab, very important too, crystallize areas where the government will involve itself in business. You know, when we asked the private sector what were some of the concerns they had, one of the things that came out loud and clear was they said, you know, the government is crowding them out in the private sector because the government-linked companies had become so dominant. So what the government decided to do was, we've made an announcement to start to divest 33 of the government-linked companies. And this divestment of these companies that's owned by the government and is something that we have been rolling out in 2011, into this year and also into next year. And this includes paring down of the government's equity stake inside those companies, and some of them listing into our stock exchange, some of those government-owned companies, and some of them outright sales. And last year, already 11 companies were divested, which included 8 divestments by Khazanah, amounting to 7.7 billion ringgit. This year alone, 13 divestments are in the pipeline, and this includes listing of Felda Global Ventures Holding. The remaining 9 companies will be divested by the end of next year. Under narrowing disparities, Bumiputra Small Medium Enterprises, these are small companies that are owned by Bumiputras, they have been contributing only 13% of the 2010 national gross domestic product numbers. Our intent is to grow the Bumiputra Small Medium Enterprise contribution from 13% to 20% by the year 2020. This will be done in a manner that is very important for us to make sure it's needs-based, at the same time, transparent. Let me talk more about the macro and structural reforms like what we are already doing, and that all of these macro and structural reforms do take time. And experts, even the best of experts tell us this. Through robust discipline of action, we'll institutionalize the right policy measures by giving businesses the confidence to invest in our country's future. I am really pleased with the progress we are making in implementing the policy reforms to improve the conditions for businesses to thrive in Malaysia. I believe in the next 8 years, these are very exciting times for Malaysia. Every Malaysian and every one of us living in Malaysia will have a role to play, some big and some small, I know, but this journey is going to be exciting. Find out more on how you can benefit from the initiatives, whether it's to better your job in your career, create much bigger business opportunities for yourself and your companies, or understand how things can improve. Thank you.